Hey guys, I'm very excited to be filming this tutorial of this outfit for you guys to see. This is actually a corset top and skirt with armhole. If you like to see the full tutorial on the top, then keep on watching. I actually wore this outfit for a wedding and I went as a guest. You can see how the corset top is looking very beautiful, and this top was actually inspired by Stylebyreme. So the first thing we're going to do is to place our pattern paper, mark our shoulder measurement, then impute our vertical measurement, which is our breast point, which is 10 inches, under bust 13, half length 17. We're going to be imputing them right now. Make sure to mark your vertical measurements, breast point, on the bust, half length, and then you extend the lines horizontally using your rulers. Once I was done marking those points, I used my ruler to extend the line horizontally, just as you see me doing right now. While I was actually filming this tutorial, I was very tired, but guys, the girls got to show up. So after marking the points, just as you can see right now, so on your breast point, make sure to go up by 2 inches to get your chest line, guys. So you label the chest line, breast point, under bust, and half length. Then make sure to mark your neckline, the width, which is 3.5, and then the depth is also 3.5 inches. Then we're going to be connecting it with a curve just like this. After I was done with that, I had to cross check my shoulder measurement, which was 8 inches. So I had to connect it with a straight line downwards, just like this. So now I'm going to be marking the midpoint of the line to get our armhole. So the midpoint is actually 4 inches. You're going to go in by 0.75 inches. So now we're going to be connecting the line from the upper part. But before then, make sure to come down your shoulder line by 1 inches and connect it towards your neckline just like this. Then connect the 3 points together from the shoulder point to the mid armhole and then down to the connected line, just like you see me doing. Once I was done with that, the next measurement to input is our nipple to nipple measurement, which mine actually is 4 inches right now. So we impute the 4 inches on the chest line, breast point, under bust, and half length. Then we're going to be connecting it with a straight line, just like you're seeing it right now. Once we are done with that, on the lower point for the part of the half length, we're going to be marking 1/2 of an inch on each side. Then on the breast point line, will come down by 1 inch on the left and the right hand side. Then we're going to be connecting from that line towards the waistline, just like you see. Done with connecting the darts. On the chest line, we're going to be coming down by 1 inch. Then once you're done with that, we'll go in by 1/2 of an inch and mark that point. The next thing now will be to measure from our breast point down to our under bust and know how many we have. Then we're going to be marking the point using our tape, placing our tape on the breast point. Then we'll mark the point. I got 3.5 inches on mine, so I'm going to be marking 3.5 inches round the breast point, just like you see. I'm going to be marking 3.5 inches round the breast point. Make sure to keep placing your tape at interval, just like you see, until you get a full circle. Make sure to do this carefully, guys, so you don't make mistake and so you have a perfect circle. Once I've gotten the circle, now I'm going to use my marker to connect the dots round. If you know you can't actually use your free hand, make sure to use your protractor to draw the full circle. So now that we've gotten that point, I'm going to be connecting from that 1/2 inch that we came in by. I'm going to be connecting it down to the under bust, just as you can see, to give it a slight curve to get the shape of the bust. I'm placing my curve to get that perfect curve. So once I was done with that, you can see how it's looking. The next step now is to find the midpoint between the shoulder point. So I'm going to be folding my tape into 2 to get the midpoint. Then I marked it with my marker. Once I was done with that, I used my rule to connect from the breastpoint line down to the shoulder, the midpoint of the shoulder, just like you see. So now on the under bust line, we're going to be marking 1 inches on the left as well as on the right hand side. You can decide to take 1/2 inch on this point. So now once I was done with that, on the place of the breastpoint, I connected it with a curve just like you see. So now on the chest line part, we're going to be marking 1 inch upward, both on the left and the right hand side. We're going to be marking 1 inch on the sides. So now we're going to be connecting the lines together. Make sure to watch the point so you know how to connect it. Then we'll still go in on the left hand side by 1/2 inch, as well as 1/2 inch on the right hand side also. Or you can decide to take like 0.75 depending on how you want the dots to go in. So once I was done with that, this is how it's looking. On the right hand side, we're still going to be marking 1/2 inch again. So now we're going to connect the line down to the shoulder, just like this. Make sure the line is not straight but diagonal. So you can see how it's looking, guys. We're almost there. I had to blend in the curved line on the under bust. So once I was done with that, now on the place of the armhole, I'm going to be curving it down to the under bust using my curve rule. Then we're going to blend the lines together. The upper line, make sure you watch the points at which we are connecting. Now that we're done blending the upper line, we're going to cancel out the lines that we don't need anymore. We've actually gotten the shape of how we want our breast cup to be. Now we're going to be taking the round measurement. So to get this measurement, do your round bust divided by 2. Sorry, your round bust divided by 4. Then you include the number of allowance that you want. If it's 1 inch or 2 inch, you add. Then the allowance for the darts that you took earlier, you replace it also in order for you not to have shortage of fabric when you're cutting. After that, you do your under bust, you do your breast point, your round bust. You do your round bust divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch for allowance, then plus the 1 inch for that. Once you're done with that, you do that the measurement for your under bust, round under bust divided by 4 plus 1.5 inch for sewing allowance, then you replace the dart also. Don't forget, round under bust divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches for seam allowance, then plus 1.5 inches for the dart that you took earlier on. So now we're going to be connecting the dots together using a vertical line. So now on the part for the half length, or calling it your waistline, you do round waist divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches for seam allowance, and then plus 1.5 inches for that. Make sure to mark the accurate measurement, guys, so you don't run short of fabric. Once I was done with that, we'll connect with our ruler. You can see how I use my tape to cross check to make sure that I'm actually taking the right measurement, because once you've cut, there's no remedy, guys. So make sure to check and cross check your measurements properly in order to avoid this kind of costly mistake. After I was sure that that's the right measurement, then I marked it. Then I use my ruler to connect the waistline to the upper line that I marked earlier on. So now that we've done this, on the waistline, we're going to be coming down by 4 inches. This will serve as the basque effect for the corset top. Then we're going to be connecting that 4 inches towards the edge of the waistline, just like you can see. I'm using my marker to blend in the line so you guys can see it properly. If you know this is your first time on the channel, please guys do want to hit on that red subscribe button, like this video, and comment corset top in the comment section below so you can trigger the YouTube algorithm, and so we can grow this community together, and also so other people on YouTube can learn. Back to the tutorial, guys. After we're done with the ruling, we're going to be cutting the sides. So now we're going to label each part. The center front, which I labeled as CF. This is a very crucial part, guys. Please look at this place properly so you know which part and which part to cut. Then I labeled one of the bust parts as 1. Then I cut out the dart because we're not going to be needing it anymore. Then I cut out the other part that's going to be having the armhole. If you look carefully, you'll be able to see where I'm cutting. If you've not seen our other corset video, I'm going to be leaving a link down in the description box for you guys to see the video before coming to this one. That particular video will make it easier for you to understand this one better. Now we're almost done with cutting the front pattern paper. Then we cut out the neckline for the pattern paper, but we're not going to be needing that part, so now our front pattern paper is ready. Make sure you label your pattern paper properly so you don't get confused when you're cutting your actual fabric. Now we'll cut out the part for the armhole away from the side, just like this, making it 4 pieces of the pattern paper for the front. We're going to be using that particular back, the front. We're going to be using a particular front pattern paper to cut out the back, but before then we're going to be imputing the lines, the horizontal lines. Don't mind how my pattern paper is looking all squeezed. Make sure to iron yours to make it very straight. So I marked my shoulder point, which was 8 inches sideways. Then I mark breast point 10 inches, under bust 13, half length 17. The back part is going to be stopping at the half length because it has no backs effect. So I extended the line horizontally on the waistline, the under bust, the breast point line, just like we did for the first one. And then I went 2 inches upward from the breast point to get the chest line. I didn't actually know that the part for the shoulder points and the neckline didn't really show properly. The phone cut it out, so I'm just going to be verbally explaining it without it showing. So now on the breast point, we're going up by 2 inches to get our chest line, and then we'll mark it and extend the line horizontally just like we did for the front pattern paper. Now we'll label each part. Now we're going to be marking 4 inches on the side, which is our nipple to nipple measurement. We'll mark it on the breastpoint line, the under bust line, and the waistline, and then we'll connect it vertically with a straight line. On the shoulder point, we're going to be marking a straight line down to the chest line. So now on the shoulder point, we'll come down by 1 inch just like we did for the front and connect it to the neckline. That's the part that's not showing. Then we'll mark our round bust measurement plus 1.5 inches. Then we'll connect it with a curve back to the shoulder line to get our armhole curve, just like we did for the front pattern. So now on the waistline, you go out by 1/2 inch on the left as well as on the right hand side. Then we'll be connecting the lines upward down to the breastpoint line because this is the back dart. Then we impute our round under bust measurement. On the shoulder point, we'll find the midpoint just like we did for the front, in order for us to be able to match the front and the back pattern paper together, so there will be no confusions when we are sewing. Then we connected the midpoint of the shoulder down to the dart line just like this. So now we're going to be marking 8 inches downward from the shoulder point. This will serve as our back neckline. Once we mark that 8 inches, then the width is actually 6 inches. Then we'll connect it together just like this. Now it's time to impute our round bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches. Then we'll replace the darts wherever there are darts taken. On the under bust, you do your round under bust divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches for sewing allowance, and then you replace the measurement for your dart as well. You also repeat the same thing on your waist line. Round waist divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches, then you replace the dart as well. Guys, please pardon the way I'm actually sounding, because when I was actually recording this video, I was very tired, and it's actually past 1 a.m. as at when I was recording this video, so please manage how my voice is. So once you've cross-checked and every measurement is intact and you're good to go, you connect the lines vertically. We're going to be placing our front pattern paper to see if it matches. And right now we see that everything is all smooth. We're going to be cutting out the back pattern just like this. I decided to bring down the back neckline by 2 inches downward again, making it 10 inches on the back neckline. And then I decided to slant it a bit so it will be easier to sew when I'm sewing. Make sure when you're cutting, your back neckline and your front neckline are the same. If they are not the same, you might encounter a difficulty while you're sewing. So please make sure they match. Now on the back, there will be no zipper, so I'm going to be taking away 2 inches on the upper part and 1.5 inches on the lower part. So I'm going to be marking each point. Once I'm done with the marking, I'm going to connect it with a straight line, just like this. And this will be where I'm going to be inserting our loops, because there are no zips on the back of this top. I'm going to be inserting a loop to cover in the shortage of the fabric on the back side. So I'm going to label it as back. Now our front and back pattern is actually ready. Once you're cutting your center front pattern paper, make sure it is on fold just for the center front. And then for the side, make sure the side front, make sure it's 2 pieces. And then for the other parts, make sure there are 2 pieces also. So now you can see the number of linings and number of fabrics that I have. 2 each. Then the center front is just a single piece. I'm going to be using the wadding to cut my own I'm going to be using the wadding to cut my own breast cup. So now I'm going to be detaching the part of the breast cup away from the armhole part, so I will be able to cut it on my wadding. So you can see where I'm cutting. So now I'm going to fold the wadding into 2, then place the pattern paper on it and cut out. But if you have an already made breast cup, you can just sew the fabric and then input the breast cup in between the lining and the actual fabric. But since I don't have a ready-made breast cup, I'm cutting out mine by myself. I'm going to be making one for myself. Make sure to cut 2 for each part. Then I used my needle to sew the wadding together to make it look like a breast cup. If you want me to do a tutorial on that, you can let me know down in the comment section below and I'll definitely make one for you. So once I was done with that, it's time to arrange the lining as well as the actual fabric together to match each sides. These are the parts we're going to be sewing together, both for the left hand side as well as on the right hand side of the bust. So you sew the center point like this with 1/2 inch. Whatever you do for one part, make sure you repeat the same thing for the other part as well. You're also going to be repeating the same thing for the lining also. Once I was done with sewing the wadding, this is how it looks like. It's now an actual breast cup. So I'm going to be stitching it on the fabric. I placed the hemming gum in between the lining and the in between the fabric and the wadding, and then I iron it down for it to stick. Once I was done ironing, this is how it's looking like. It's all gummy. You can see it's not falling off. It's actually together, guys, and it's looking very beautiful. Do you know the actual favorite part of this fabric is the colors that it has? It has like ash in it, brown, and then yellow and a touch of black. So now I'm going to be using my bias tape to design the breast part. So on the side I marked 3.5 inches on the sides, just like this, and then the width is actually about 5 inches. Whatever design I did on one part, I'll see replicated on the other part as well. So this is how it's looking like now. We're going to be stitching it down on our sewing machine so it doesn't fall off. For the back part, I've used my chalk to rule the dart part using my pattern paper to replicate it on the lining as well as on the fabric. I'm going to be stitching it down off camera. I'm not going to show how I did it, but this is the line that I marked. I also took away the sewing allowance that I'm going to be using 1/2 inch on each side to sew it. Once I was done sewing the lining, this is how it looks. Everything is looking all neat. I'm going to be making use of a boning in between the fabric, so we're going to give it a proper structure. We're going to be placing the boning on the actual fabric, not the lining. I ran my bias on each point using my sewing machine and thread. So now it's inside this bias that we're going to be inserting the boning. So the bias stood like a boning case for each channel. Make sure that your boning is short by 1/2 inch both on the lower part as well as on the upper part, making it a total of 1 inch. So once you insert your boning case, then you're going to be stitching the sides, and then use your line. Stitch the side and use your line to turn the neckline every part. This is the end of the tutorial, guys.